Could something so artificial as music made with artificial intelligence tell us something important about the nature of our own minds? AI music is able to generate an incredible range of music that sounds surprisingly human. But that's just the thing. It sounds like music that we've already heard from human artists. And that point, apart from the entire conversation about AI, I think is really interesting and gives us some perspective on how our minds work. AI music generators analyze a lot of music, extract out the elements of what makes each kind of music work, and then regurgitates them into new tracks. In other words, AI takes already known musical structures and then just reproduces them in different variations. Maybe it can blend these elements in interesting ways, but the key point is that, at least for now, its only way of creating is by imitating things that already exist. The human mind also tends to get stuck in what it already knows: predefined views, ideas, and dogmas. Now, of course, the ability to recognize concepts and patterns and to rehash what we already know in a different way is very useful, but it'll never really get us to something brand new. As Peter Thiel would say, it can take us from 1 to n, multiplying what we already have, but not 0 to 1, bringing something brand new into existence. Music at the base level is just arranging sounds in a way that we find interesting or pleasing, or that we feel expresses something. There are many traditions from around the world and throughout history about how to arrange these sounds, but there are no rules. Following the guidelines of a certain musical tradition, or even just a tuning system, can give us a starting framework to then express from. But of course, true creativity is found in the unexplored spaces within the framework and in completely new frameworks, and you can arrange sounds however you like. So I definitely think that analyzing and building from within an existing context is super useful, but that it's also really important to recognize its limitations and to not rely too much on that. So if we want to break out of the known, to make something fresh and innovative and new, it seems to me that AI can maybe tell us something about how to go about that in two completely opposite ways. The first is by feeding our minds, or the AI, an input which seems impossible to compute or contradictory, forcing a creation or paradigm outside of the existing structure. With AI, I've recently learned that this is called neural bending, and a small group of creative people are experimenting with it to create new sounds and images. In our minds, we can do something similar in different ways. For example, we can contemplate paradoxes of various kinds. One example would be classic questions like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Or what is the sound of one hand clapping? Or there's the type of paradox that currently interests me the most, in which two seemingly contradictory things actually coexist and are simultaneously true on different levels of analysis. Or, to break out of the confines of my conditioned mind, I might try to entertain the strongest version of two conflicting worldviews at the same time. We can also read books or learn things that push us to integrate knowledge completely outside of our current scope of understanding. So I can try to break out of mental boxes by pushing and stretching the limits of my mind. Or I can go the complete opposite direction and just practice letting go of the thinking mind entirely, like what we practice in meditation. To just practice dropping what my mind thinks it already knows, to go outside of those constraints, and to create space for inspiration to bloom. Inspiration and epiphany, or sudden realization, is a phenomenon beyond our understanding. In a flash, we can understand something so complex that it would be difficult and time-consuming to explain, or seemingly download an idea that seems beyond what our minds could have just added together. Some would say, oh, that's just your intuition, or that's just the subconscious working behind the scenes and then presenting something to you, and maybe, but we still don't know exactly what that would mean, or that it's limited to just that. Even recognizing how little I truly know, and the power of these sudden realizations, I find it challenging not to get pulled into the false sense of security that comes from living inside mental models of reality. Even knowing this is a trap that I fall into it, and even knowing this can be a trap for falling back into the confines of what I know. If that sounds confusing, don't worry, I'll have a video to clarify more what I mean soon. For me, it's an ongoing practice of focusing and expanding my awareness outside of the realm of thoughts. And I find that as my mind starts to realize and recognize its own limitations, it creates a little bit of space, making it a little bit easier for me to start detaching more and more from the addiction I have to my own intellect. There is a lot more to explore there, so feel free to check out these other videos that go deeper. Or just close whatever device you're watching this on, take a deep breath into the mystery of existence, and with whatever insights you've gained from this video, go do whatever would be the most meaningful thing that you could do right now. Love you.